Up high in the Himalayas, a new kind of great game is playing out, but this one isn't for territory, it's for water. Today, we're diving into the Himalayan Hydropower race, a really high-stakes competition that could completely reshape the balance of power in Asia. Right now, on the Tibetan Plateau, the roof of the world, a fundamental shift is happening. Water, the source of life for more than 1 billion people downstream, is being turned into a tool of incredible geopolitical power. So, to really get what's at stake here, we've got to start with the geography itself. We are talking about a place that's rightfully called the Water Tower of Asia. It's the starting point for so many of the continent's most vital rivers. Okay, so what you're looking at here is one single gigantic river that has two different identities. Up in China, it's known as the Yarlung Tsangpo. But once it carves its way through the Himalayas and crosses into India, it becomes the mighty Brahmaputra. This dual identity, well, that's at the very heart of this entire story. And that brings us to the opening move in this high-altitude chess match. China has kicked off a project on a scale that's, well, it's almost hard to imagine. And they're building it right on the Yarlung Tsangpo, just before it leaves Chinese territory. Let's just try to wrap our heads around this number for a second. The plan for China's Lower Yarlung Tsangpo project is to generate somewhere between 60 and 80 gigawatts. To give you some perspective, that's roughly 3 times the power of the Three Gorges Dam, which is already the biggest power station on the entire planet. It's just massive. And yeah, the price tag? It's just as staggering. We're talking an investment of over $160 billion. A number like that tells you this is way more than just another energy project. For Beijing, this is a core national priority. And don't think this is some far-off idea. This timeline shows how close it is. Groundbreaking is scheduled for 2025. Now look at that location. It's strategically placed near Ningxi, literally just upstream from the Indian border. The goal here isn't subtle. They want to build the world's largest hydropower facility, period. So why the massive push? Well, from Beijing's point of view, it ticks a lot of boxes. Sure, it helps them meet their green energy targets, but it also secures the incredible amount of power they need for their high-tech ambitions. Things like AI and data centers, which are just unbelievably power-hungry. And maybe most importantly, it gives them absolute control over a vital water source right where it begins. Of course, a move that big doesn't go unanswered. Downstream, India has launched its own enormous hydropower counterplan. They are determined not to be left at the mercy of whatever their neighbor decides to do upstream. India's own master plan for the Brahmaputra basin is aiming to generate over 76 gigawatts by 2047. You can see from the scale that the goal isn't just to match China, but to build a truly formidable energy base of their own. Now, India's response isn't just one single dam. It's what you might call a strategic cascade of projects, all working together. The absolute centerpiece is the massive Upper Siang project. The whole idea is to create a strategic buffer. By building their own huge reservoirs, India's hoping they can store enough water to offset any changes to the flow coming from China. It's basically about giving them back some control over the river once it's in their territory. This table just lays out the whole race in really stark terms. You've got two giants, two massive plans, all on the same river. And while the power capacity numbers look kind of similar, I want you to look at the core strategic goals. For China, it's all about resource control at the source. For India, it's about creating a security buffer downstream. This is a classic geopolitical standoff, literally being carved into the landscape. So, what happens when two giants start building competing mega projects on the very same fragile river system? Well, this gets us to the inherent dangers of what's called the upstream-downstream dilemma. The whole tension here really boils down to this simple idea of riparian states. That's just the countries that are on a river's banks. China, because it's upstream, basically has its hand on the tap. India and, of course, Bangladesh are downstream. They get whatever water flows their way. And that creates a huge fundamental imbalance of power. The first and most obvious power that the upstream country has is the ability to just hold water back. Mega dams can trap not only water, but also all the vital sediment and silt that naturally fertilize the huge agricultural floodplains in places like Assam and Bangladesh. If you starve those regions of that silt over decades, you could completely change agriculture and the entire ecosystem. And then there's the opposite fear, the so-called water bomb. This is the nightmare scenario of a sudden, massive release of water from one of those upstream reservoirs. Whether it's done on purpose during a conflict or by accident because of a structural failure, it could unleash a catastrophic flood on millions of people downstream with almost no warning at all. And if that wasn't enough, all these risks are piled on top of a really dangerous reality. The whole region is an active earthquake zone. The ecosystem is incredibly fragile, and crucially, there's basically no real-time data sharing between India and China, all of it layered on decades of deep geopolitical mistrust. It's a recipe for a potential disaster. So when you take a step back and look at all these pieces together, you start to realize this is about so much more than just dams and electricity. What we're seeing is a whole new strategic paradigm taking shape. And that gets us to the absolute heart of the issue. Both of these nations are turning the geography of the Himalayas into a kind of strategic battery. It's a battery that doesn't just store potential energy, it stores immense geopolitical leverage. So what does this battery actually power? Well, for China, it powers a high-tech future built on AI and data centers. For India, it powers a path toward industrial growth and energy independence. But for both countries, it is, without a doubt, a tool to project power and influence. And it's kicking off a brand new and potentially very unstable era of infrastructure competition across Asia. All this leaves us with a final and pretty critical question. As water becomes more and more precious around the world, are shared rivers like this one going to become flashpoints for conflict? Or could they become a catalyst that forces cooperation? The answer to that is being written right now, in the race to control the power of the world's highest peaks.